All right, welcome to our Lesson 5 Food Chains and Webs notes. So make sure you have your lesson packet in front of you and you are ready to rock and roll. All right, let's start at the very top. What you need to know. You need to know that there are two types of organisms, those that make their own food, and those are called producers, and those that get their food from another source. Those are called consumers. So let's start with the producers. Producers are also called autotrophs, and they create their own food source, which is glucose, using energy from another source, which is the sun, in the process of photosynthesis. So if it's in bold, you should be writing this down. And we know about photosynthesis, right? Water enters the plant through the roots, carbon dioxide enters stomata in the leaves, and then our plant uses energy from the sun to do photosynthesis, which is a chemical reaction that rearranges the stuff from the carbon dioxide and water and then creates glucose and then gives off excess oxygen. Awesome. Next up, we have consumers. So on your notes below the shark, you'll see consumers, and they are also called heterotrophs, and they get their food from another source. So they can't make their own. And there are four types of consumers. First, we have the herbivore. So find where it says herbivores. They are consumers with specialized digestive structures adapted to eating only plants. Some of those structures they have in their body that help them eat plants would be flat and clipping teeth and a gizzard for grinding, other specialized body parts. Next, we have carnivores. Carnivores are consumers with specialized digestive structures adapted to eat only meat. They have sharp tearing teeth, they have sharp claws for grasping prey, so their bodies are designed to eat meat. Scavengers. So we're going below the carnivore on your notes. Scavengers are carnivores that eat the remains of dead organisms. So here we see our vultures having a snack on this dead antelope. Omnivores. So find where it says omnivores. Omnivores are consumers with specialized digestive structures adapted to eat both plants and animals. So they have both sharp, bitey teeth and flat, grindy teeth, just like we do. And last on our first page of notes, we have detritivores or decomposers. These are consumers that break down organic material, so things that were once alive, and return nutrients to the soil. Once again, organic material is any carbon based material that was once living. And it's carbon based. Remember, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, our big three. All right, on to our next page of notes. We're at the very top of the page. Food chain is a series of events in which one organism eats another and obtains energy. Each level in a food chain is a trophic level. All food chains begin with light energy from the sun and a whole lot of producers. Producers or autotrophs make food, which is our glucose, using the sun's energy through photosynthesis. So remember our photosynthesis, CO2 plus H2O plus sunlight and chlorophyll will give us C6H12O6, that's our glucose, and 6 oxygens, right? And we went through this. We know our photosynthesis. After producers, we're going to go to consumers. So to consume means to eat, or take in. And our first consumer always eats the producer. So these are our primary consumers, and they can be herbivores, like our little grasshopper, meaning they only eat plants, or they can be omnivores, which means that they eat both plants and meat or insects. So make sure you're filling in the two boxes on your picture. Herbivore would go above our grasshopper, omnivore would go above our little mouse. Secondary consumers. So we're at the bottom of the page. Find where it says secondary consumer. They're going to eat the primary consumer, and they can be either a carnivore like our snake. So make sure you write carnivore underneath the snake. Or they could be an omnivore like our little mouse that we already labeled omnivore. Tertiary consumer. Tertiary means three, like triangle, that T word is three. So we're back up at the top of our note page. Tertiary consumer eats the primary or secondary consumer. These organisms are usually carnivores, although they can be used as omnivores. They're considered the top of the food chain. And we have two different tertiary consumers. We have the snake, which eats the mouse, which eats the grasshopper, which eats the grass. Or we have the hawk that eats the snake, that eats the mouse, that eats the grass. Who feeds on everything? Scavengers and decomposers. So find the box that says who feeds on everything. And we have scavengers and decomposers. At any level of the food chain, an organism can die and become food for these guys and fungi. It's a bad science joke. So you see, excuse me, you see the buzzard circling around the dead animal, and you see those little mushrooms. Those are the fungi, right? Those are scavengers, would be the buzzard, and decomposers would be the mushrooms. At any level of the food chain, an organism can die and become food for these guys and fungi. All right, let's go to the very, very bottom of page 2. Organisms use the energy released in the food chain to power all of their daily activities through the process of cellular respiration. So that's oxygen plus glucose gives me water, CO2, and energy in the form of ATP. All right, I would like you to go to your last page, page 3, and you are going to identify the organisms in this picture. So find the plant, that's my producer. Find the grasshopper, that's my herbivore. Find the mouse, that's my omnivore. Find the snake, my carnivore. Find the hawk, find the buzzard, find the mushroom. I would like you to label all of these things in your picture. When you finish labeling your picture, answer the last two questions. What do you think the direction of the arrow between each organism means? And what do you think happened to the population of producers if the grasshopper population increased? What if the grasshopper population decreased? Think about our example of the wolves and the elk. What happened when the wolf population went up? How did that affect the elk population? All right. So fill in your diagram and answer those two questions.